Good morning, students. Today we are going to see an interesting poem, Courage. Take page number 122 in your textbook. Courage was written by Edgar Albert Guest. Author introduction. Edgar Albert Guest was a prolific England born American poet who was popular in the first half of the 20th century and became known as the people's poet. His poems often had an inspirational and optimistic view of everyday life. This poem, Courage, is divided into four stanzas, with each stanza representing a different stages of one's life. First stanza discusses childhood, then second stanza describes the senses from young adulthood, the third stanza conducts with middle age, and final stanza discusses old age. First stanza. Courage isn't a brilliant dash, a daring deed in a moment flash. It isn't an instantaneous thing, born of despair with a sudden spring. It isn't a creature of flickered hope or the final tug at a slipping rope. But it isn't something deep in the soul of man that is working always to serve some plan. In the first paragraph, the poet says that courage is not a brilliant or daring task like winning the game at the last moment, and it's not an instantaneous thing. Instantaneous means comes immediately at the time of fear, or even it is not the courage which comes in us when we are at the end of slipping rope. But the poet says courage is something deep which comes from the inner heart of man and it works at every second to be bold. For example, he says Malala. She is a young girl who has the passion to give education for all the Talibans. She says that she has fear, but that fear is low, but my courage is more stronger than fear to achieve her goal. Then the next stanza. Courage isn't the last resort in the work of life or the game of sport. It isn't a thing that a man can call at some future time when he is apt to fall. If he hasn't it now, he will have it not. When the stain is greater and the pace is hot. For who would strive for a distant goal must always have courage within his soul. Second stanza explains that courage is not a final thing that helps to win the game of sport or life at the end, or it will not come when we call it during the difficult times in our life or even in the future. But the courage is, if a man who doesn't have courage, he will not at all have it ever at any situation. But courage is in a person's heart, one who works hard to achieve their goal because courage lives in his heart. Like this stanza ends. The poet explains that even the courage will come at the end of our life situation when it is in our inner heart. So he says that courage is builded within our heart. Third stanza. Courage isn't a dazzling light that flashes and passes away from sight. It's a slow, unwavering, ingrained trait with the patience to work and strength to wait. It's part of a man when his skies are blue. It's part of him when he has work to do. The brave man never is freed of it. He has it when there is no need of it. In this stanza, the poet says that courage is not like the bright light which flashes and disappears within a second. Courage is a slow and steady quality which gives patience to work and strength to wait. Courage is part of man when he does his work. on his own willingly. A man who is brave has courage, even if a man who doesn't want to show his courage out, but the quality of courage is within him always. The next stanza, fourth stanza, courage was never designed for show. It isn't a thing that can come and go. It's written in victory and defeat, and every trial a man may meet. It's part of his horse, his days, and his years, back of his smiles and behind his tears. Courage is more than a daring deed. It's a breath of life and a strong man's creed. Here, the poet says that courage is not an object that is designed for a show, and it's not a thing that can come and go. Poet says that courage is written in each and every success and even failure, and he always says that a man with courage meets his higher quality of courage in the part of his life at the time, in every house, his days, and even in the years. A successful man sees courage as smile, and failure is expressed through tears. Courage is more than a daring action of a man, and it's his breath of life and the strong man's faith. Here are some of the figure of speeches you can see. Here ends the poem, students. Thank you.